A haphazard day for Sky and Scroll yesterday, but that doesn't mean that Velo and Zynox couldn't have finalized the recipe for success here. But there is a lot on the line, Levin. Obviously, with both of these duos competing against their former ex-teammates in this same heat, there's obviously the pride contention of who's going to make it to finals, who's going to make it to finals first, potentially even, and also just knowing, I want to make it to my first grands.
Absolutely. That's what it's really about. Forget the grands. I just want to outplace my old duo partner and show that I was not the problem. Chap certainly isn't the problem in this fight right now. He picks up one and he's looking for the other. The Siphon will give him a bit more room to dance about and try and find Robin. Of course, Robin isn't really working with much already off the back of the reboot. And so Chap and Flixie sitting in a very comfortable position here. A big testing ground, I think, for these two. Right, in a heat that I think many people in EU are saying is the weakest, you would expect Chap and Flixie to roll on through. The problem is for them, Taco, is I think they've been in plenty of situations this year where we expected them to sort of roll on through pretty easily, and they haven't. And so what is the expectation for them today? Of course, it's to qualify. I think the question comes down to how they qualify. Is it a comfy qualification? Do they show us a sign of maybe what we can see next weekend, or do they scrape their way through and leave us wondering whether or not they are the right combination for each other?
Ready for them to break the mold. They've already got that Belgium lock, but now it's about finalizing the steps leading into it. And they have just had those hot and cold instances so many times in previous tournaments that it would be phenomenal if they could just bring it all together here and show that they are in ship shape. But for right now, problems continue to ensue. Deep outskirts of the northwest sides of the map. So many of these teams that were just looking for those reboot opportunities, given some early mishaps, and now finding themselves just still stuck in a world of trouble here as Column catching Art Skill a bit off guard. Can be a dangerous spot to be in, but for Flixie and Chap, where they had initially had a pretty big advantage up against Robin and Glubshy playing for those reboots, now they've got to deal with yet another team trying to have a bit of an advantage here. But it's Chap and Flixie, and we're talking about, hey, we want to see those dominating moments. This is one of those circumstances where your veterans on EU should definitely be able to showcase their strengths, and in fact, they are going to do enough to prevent Zestful and his teammate from reconsidering re-engaging.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm about to say might almost sound hypocritical, because I did say I want a strong performance out of them today. But I almost don't want a one and done, because I want to see a couple more games of them. You know, I want to see what they're about today before they sit back and watch the rest of the games. And so, Ping and Ghost, another duo I think a lot of people will be wanting to see what they're about. Of course, Ping, a player who had plenty of success last year in trios with Manabuka and Wox. Ghost, a player who in 2026 has been highly touted as a top talent. And both, I think, have struggled to really find the right partnership, duo-wise, to find any sort of significant success. So an opportunity that has to be taken here today. Hey, our fan favorites on the screen. Everybody's favorite EU Fortnite pro, Mr. Savage with Truly. What are your expectations of them today, Taco?
I'm leaning very heavily towards consistency. That's the main thing that I think I want to see out of Truly and Savage, because when you are such a newly formed duo, it can be a bit complicated to get the exact practice that you'd be hoping for, but I know that these two have steadily been grinding. They've been joining inside of the scrim sessions. Truly has definitely been hawking down Savage to participate and practice with him, and I think that's just a great mishmash of what you need from a player like Truly, who's new and definitely excited and trying to get every last little bit of knowledge from Savage's experience also coming into the mix. And it can be really well played for a scenario, but I want to see them just making it to end games as a duo.
That's what we all want to see. Taco a believer. I'm sure we'll see many people spamming the cabbages to help Savage or whatever it is they do. Doing it for years. I still don't, I'm still not tapped in, but I know they do something for Savage.
Hellfire and Winther is an exciting duo, though, because this is, I think, a re-emergence for a player like Hellfire, and then Winther, not necessarily new to the EU competitive environment, but they have done relatively well at just consistently making it towards finals lobbies. But to hold that thought here, because Cruisin' Colder, seems like the action has definitely been building up pretty heavily for these two. 4 eliminations already, and that's not exactly something you would expect to see this early on, but when you have a team sitting now 418 above the damage threshold, they've been able to find consistent refreshes, and material management has certainly proven to be a problem for teams based on some of these past couple of days in the zones and the way they have pooled and some of the exposure. So for Cruisin' and Colder, having these solid box fights, especially because the likes of Chicha and Svi, those are the kinds of closeouts that you really need to build that confidence early on.
And that's not good for Comeback and Seti with Chicha and Svi going down like that, because a poor game might just make them opt to revert to their original drop spot plans. But great defensive fighting there, showing how to deal with a team that's desperate for surge when they're knocking on your door.
Quick glimpse of where Nathan and Nebs were just at. A little bit of congestion now starting to pool towards that west side of the zone, but Battlewoods can be a tricky area to navigate. Really got to make sure that you are monitoring your builds around those trees, not finding yourself incapable of building next to one. But for Giras and Cheatin, right now it is exclusively a focus on trying to see if they can maintain just above that surge threshold, teeter-tottering the line. And Ifrozi and Chuck, it could be a good option here, but whenever you lose shield to that surge, you're having to spend a little bit of time to heal back those shields, because an overpeak could be the worst case scenario. And for Cheatin and Giras, they don't really have too many options. They've just got to keep trying to apply pressure.
Yeah, and they need this damage, and so they'll play aggressive for it, but they have to worry about the surge. And then the rotation is not easy either. The good thing here is if they're able to get the damage what they have, they can sort of wrap towards the zone, but they're just going to be wrapping straight into the congestion, so it only gets harder for them. Not considering the fact that they ain't won the fight. They got to stay alive.
Say that, when you getting the exchange here, that Siphon just barely going to click in for both Giras and Chuck, but now both of these players left as solo, still having to try and figure out a way to even break past the congestion, because everybody that's already on that edge of zone is already looking directly at them, and Giras immediately suffering the repercussions of this drawn-out exchange because it took so long to get into zone. Chuck was hoping that sacrifice from Giras just ahead of him would mean that he could survive, but even after making it to edge of zone, just a little bit too much lobby focus, and eventually just being forced directly into the clutches of another player. It's an unfortunate circumstance, but sometimes that's just how it goes.
COOKED, cooked. Not much you can do. iDrop and Gonzo, we've not really talked about them. It's our first time seeing them in this game. I mean, look, I don't want to repeat the typical iDrop tropes, but I will because it's my job. And the reality is we've seen iDrop in great situations over the years in FNCS. We've seen him have great spells of form where he looks like he's about to mount a FNCS winning charge, and then at the final hurdle, it doesn't quite happen for him. He's playing with Gonzo now, who, as you can see here on your screens, knows how to hit a shot or two. And so these guys may go underrated, but the question will always be, when the pressure is at its highest, will they be able to deliver? This game will be a good test as they position to play height for the rest of the endgame.
Gonna have to watch their backs too, because Nathan and Nebs just steadily creeping up towards them from that mid laner secondary height position. Wouldn't be surprised to see them go for a clash eventually on the high ground. But for right now, it's a little bit more of a problematic venture if you're Ghost. This is a good chance to really try and lean pretty heavily into some of that soloing experience, but it can be difficult when you are dealing with fighting back and forth with that Surge line. Only 10 above currently. Does have a good amount of materials and builds out, and we know that Ghost can get fraggy. It's just about finding the proper moment, and a lot of times players kind of just waiting to see if they can just catch someone on the move. First rotations can sometimes draw a little bit more attention than what you would want. Seti and Comeback, though, they're looking great currently. 858 above, 1 elimination. It seems that a little bit of an early scuffle definitely did them some huge favors, and being unconned.
A great example of just how a great start to your game can snowball into what could be the makings of a finals qualification game if they can really piece things together here. Nebs and Nathan have had a bit of a tougher time since the end game has begun. And they need to be careful not to run into a brick wall here.
Liking this, though, from Chap and Flixie. They seem to have found a little bit of rhythm with 5 eliminations. Just doing a great job at tarping underneath height. Savage, truly, also trying to gauge. They want to be some of the first on the go, but Levin, just looking at their loadouts, they are going to need a refresh eventually. They are running incredibly low on materials, and for iDrop and Gonzo, it's still just fixation, front side, holding the high ground. Nathan, Nebs continue to just kind of terrorize these mid layers, but also doing a great job of making sure to stay on top of prioritizing that front side control.
Yeah, and look, a bit of a rough end to the rotation there for Nathan, but I love the intention, investing the materials to find them the refresh that they needed to find just a bit of control in this game.
And this is a really scrap spot right now for Truly, but we'll have a chance to see how far his wings can take him. As a solo, many players know even making it as a duo in from the backside of zone can be a complicated measure, as Nathan turns around one more time. Alba will be eliminated. 4 eliminations now for some of UK's finest. They don't look like they want to stick around in this lobby. Seem like they want to just get the job done on the first go round. Is Truly now looking for a closeout, but can't get the refresh he needs. That'll be the end of the run here in game 1. But Nebs has been taken out. Flixie also trying to see whether or not he can go even on this exchange. Unfortunately, losing Chap, priority fragger, is going to put a lot of pressure on, and Nathan and Nebs shut down that tango. Chap and Flixie, just big cost.
Yeah, a lot of our top hitters there losing steam, but you know who's not so far? It's iDrop and Gonzo up top. That time will come soon, though, and we'll see how they'll deal with it. It's not going to be easy, because when you've got Flixie feeling it down below like he is, anybody that runs into his path might just be running into the end of their game. We'll find some more space towards the front of the zone as Combat tries to creep his way in on the back with the chug. Flixie doesn't have as many more materials to invest into his position here, so just gonna have to try and heal him, find a shot to hit, and the shot he will find. Can he get the loot with the player in the box? He's gonna have to duck down. Flixie still managing to stay in this game and just catch up a bit more placement. If he can, will eventually get dropped out by Comeback, who finally made his way in. And still nobody contesting iDrop and Gonzo, and they have completely run out of steam up with the builds.
You have to wonder now what's been taking place, who's been waiting to try and steal this one away. Wolvax opted to see whether or not they could take a step towards height, but iDrop will be forced to drop chopped out, doesn't get the chance to heal. Fall damage will be the final calling card here, but Gonzo still up and running, has plenty of whites to play things out. Ghost has done an excellent job also as a solo, but the Storm will finally take him out. Velo and Zynox playing through the low ground layers, only having to contend with Comeback essentially on height, and Comeback with no builds. He'll be forced to drop down directly towards where Velo and Synox are at, and they'll immediately find that elimination, no problem whatsoever. But the question is, can they connect with the last one? It's a 2 versus 1 endeavor. They've just got to make sure to close it out, and Gonzo won't be able to nail it. So congratulations, Velo and Zynox. This is a perfect opportunity to showcase exactly why you guys opted to play together in the first place.
Look, one thing I know for sure is that when it comes to predicting a Welsh player, you can never doubt Mini Miner. We're going to send it back to Frankie in the desk to break that one down.
Thank you so much. I feel like we've been talking a lot about Spanish Fortnite recently, probably because of Takata being on the desk, but we got to talk about British Fortnite now, Mini Miner. Congratulations to Velo and Zynox. You know, these guys, they rebuilt things together and now they're going to the grand finals together.
I want to talk about Welsh Fortnite, actually. We are a different breed. That's what we do, right? Yeah, no, unbelievable
They're
stuff.
not both
I'm honestly
Welsh.
a bit of I can't lie. Yeah, I'm a bit of a fraud, though. I'll be honest. I did say that they wouldn't win a game. So it looks as though they've proved me completely wrong. And I thought they'd be playing a lot more consistently, not getting as many eliminations, not getting as fraggy based on that Div Cup performance. But Takata, the way they played this endgame was absolutely fantastic. Electric at times there as well. I think it was, what, 6 eliminations for the win. And they'll be really, really happy with it just in this first game here. Really great start.
Oh yeah, no, the chemistry all-time high. They were the only duo for a while there in those final moments when iDrop went down and the issue is they kind of had to play that heal off a little too early, so once they came back they were already low on mats, and then with Levin switching up on his kind of desk trash talk instantly and celebrating Mini, you know, everything is just a surprise here in Heat 3.
I do wonder if Velo learned a thing or two being on land at Summit with Mr. Savage, who's regarded as one of the greatest IGLs that Europe's ever produced. But I also don't want to take anything away from Velo because we're on this journey with him now, and we'll see him and Zynox in the grand finals, and we'll see you guys after the break.
I got here. I'm popping in that bit. Wait, short. Got 6 build? No, max up. Wait, if you're mid play. 100! 100! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Milk can help you grow. Milk can't prevent your ride from blasting into space.
What an opening game of Heat number 3. Congratulations to Xenox and Zynox, I should say, apologies, and to Velo for making their first ever FNCS Grand Finals. Because if you remember, Velo and Savage made Summit through the last chance lobby. So it's going to be a big grand debut for them next weekend. Doing it for Britain and more specifically for Wales, Mini-Minder. But let's take a look at the leaderboard and find out where things stand after that first game. Because if you cast your minds back to their end game, most of the time the high ground was held by iDrop and Gonzo. They took it early. No one seemed to hold them off at points, like iDrop's beaming any challenges out of the sky, but then he got beamed right back. Gonzo ending up in that solo situation to Carter, but he played it so well in order to clutch so far.
Yeah, it looked like they had full control throughout basically every moving zone. Nobody was able to take height for them until those final moments where iDrop, I believe, actually went down. You can see here they were taking shots, but after that knockdown, iDrop did end up falling, going down to fall damage, and this is where Gonzo was in a tough decision. He had to force the heal off a little too early without time to fully win it out. So once he came back in, it was already a 1 versus 2. Odds were not in his favor, and despite running out of materials, he went down in second. But that's still a good match, Mini. That's a great way to start the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do not mind that at all from those guys. The way they took height, the way they held height was really good as well. It didn't seem like they were contested throughout the entire end game right up until the end, which is sort of where it all fall apart. But really nice game from them. Expect to see them in more end games as well, given the experience of iDrop.
Definitely. It's a great start for these guys, and it's also a fantastic start for Chap and Flixie. Flixie found himself solo towards the end of the end game, managed to take 7th place with 4 eliminations, and we expect big eliminations from these guys, Mini-Miner.
Yeah, it's funny because we actually didn't speak about these guys at the beginning of the show yet. They are the only team in the lobby that have already actually qualified through to the Global Championships. And when we speak about teams that have already qualified through, we talk about them in the context of just having that freedom, that ability just to W key a little bit, try and play height, trying to go for a little bit of some crazy plays like we've seen in some of the other heats. But these guys played it a little bit more calm, played those mid-ground layers, didn't try and play height. But these are 2 fantastic fraggers to Carter. They were doing so very well on those mid-ground layers. And even what I really like to see, those little pre-edits coming through as well, showing that they're really playing with confidence right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd call it calm because they were non-stop looking for refreshes and eliminations, and you know, in the end it got the best of them, but they picked up 6 along the way. Decent placement. I mean, it's more than enough to kick things off.
Well, let's take a look at the top of consistency right now, and that's Alvin and Rise. This is a Polish duo. There's a few notable Polish players in the lobby tonight. These are players we don't typically talk about, Mini-Miner.
Yeah, not players that we've necessarily seen at this level. We've seen Alvin at 1 FNTS final in his history, but it's nice to see some newer names in of course, Crix that's qualifying through here, or having a very good game here, looking to qualify through. Excited to see more from this team, though. It's one of those teams that we don't necessarily know too much about because they're, you know, a newer team to the lobby, but what I'm excited to see is just whether they can continue these end games. The theme that often with sort of newer teams, especially teams that we don't get to see at major final level, is whether they can continue having that consistency, or whether that first game decent performance will sort of get to them and they'll get ahead of themselves, which hopefully that won't be the case.
Well, they're looking at page 2 right now, and don't forget that the standings, what you're looking at is going to change. So at the end of the day, we'll be looking at the top 15 because the top 5 will be taken by the Victory Royale winners. Right now, it's the top 11 for contention. So currently in the middle of the pack of page 2, we've got Savage and Truly. I mean, we've got 4 more games to go to Carter. It's not a bad start getting 15th, but, you know we can see more from these guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's all right. Yeah, it's all right. The good news is they didn't have too much off-spawn trouble from what we saw, I believe. So as long as they're able to consistently make it to the late game, you know, I trust in the ability of Savage and Truly to consistently play this one out. They could add a better match, but you can't complain either. It's 5 matches to be played out, so hopefully they can make it happen.
Got to hurt a little bit, though. It's got to hurt a little bit with Mr. Savage and Truly, because both of their ex-teammates have now won the very first game. Of course, Velo with Mr. Savage qualified through already, and Truly, of course, with Zynox. It's like, hang on a sec, did we choose the wrong teammate? Should we have stuck with who we played with previously? So, interested to see how they pick themselves up after that. Hopefully, it won't affect them too much, but just something to keep in the back of the mind.
Well, interesting to see so many new duos tonight, and we talked about Seti and Kombek at the top of the show. Seti went away from Poland to team up with Rax at the start of the year, but now he's gone back to his Polish roots. He's playing with Kombek. It's surprising we haven't seen Seti play with many other Polish players because he played with Cami for so long. But right now, this is a great start for these guys, Mini-Miner.
fantastic start for these guys. As it happened, they're uncontested at that Cammy split as of right now. So everything that I spoke about at the beginning of this show, just ignore that for that very first game. It didn't happen, but hopefully, or maybe for them, they might be contested later on down the line. But if they can continue to be uncontested, they should be able to make these end games really well. And in particular to Carter, Combeck doing such a great job solo clutching for so long there. Seti went down a lot earlier in that end game, and of course, that's what you need, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I basically have no doubt they'll be able to qualify if they stay uncontested. But as you mentioned, Minnie, we did a whole breakdown on it, and it's a very big possibility that, especially if the other team, you know, has some trouble where they're currently dropping, or I don't even know where they're dropping now, it's likely that they might go back.
Do you think then that if Chicho and Ski do go back there, are they going to feel refreshed and like ready to rumble? Do you think that Seti is going to be reconsidering his position at the drop spot very quickly?
We'll see. I just think the fact that Chicho and Skavi didn't have a very good game there, they might now go back, so we might see that fight go down.
Well, let's see if it's going to happen, because we're ready to head into game 2 with Levin and Taco.
Thank you very much, Frankie. I'm excited. Now, if this is what this heat has to offer Taco, maybe people were sleeping on this one because that was a fun first game.
No, without a doubt. I mean, I would be very surprised if tons of people would have nailed Velo and Zynox as our game 1 winners. In fact, would even wager that most people were kind of hoping on the downfall in this sort of circumstance, and now it's all about all eyes on Savage and Truly. So let's see what happens next here in game 2.
Taco, you are 100%, I can't speak English, 100% correct in saying that the pressure is now on for Mr. Savage. We can't let Velo qualify through and Savage is struggling here. We just gotta go through, win game number 2, show him, look, anything you can do, I can do better. They gotta double their ninjas on and everything. You just gotta outshine them in this game. The pressure's on.
We would never hear the end of it. We already are never going to hear the end of this. I can assure you that much, just knowing the kind of character that Velo can be. But hey, enjoy the celebration, because Major 2 Grand Finals is up next, and that's exactly what all of these players are still contending for. Swiver, Very, trying to establish a little bit of dominance here at Sinister Strip. Izik's gonna make it into the vault tunnels, but whether or not they'll be able to escape, to potentially wait and see. The double Maven loadout there for Wyvern, and eventually drop one of them. Doesn't have delayed pull-out time, but still, both of these players just trying to hunt down that final elimination. They don't want to have to worry about constantly having to check their backs. It's just so much paranoia. Nizik's still barely managing to sneak away. Survivability is all it takes sometimes. And Wyvern Very have spent a decent amount of time in pursuit here, but the moment that they've chased the player out of the POI entirely, that might be all it takes for them to recognize that it's time to just get our loot path established, really start building on our own game plan. Checking in elsewhere though. Frosted Flats with Velo and Zynox having had Game 1 success, now up for grabs, and 2 separate parties have decided they want to take a gander towards it. Noah and Aruya still waiting to see whether or not they can get the upper hand. But one more time, the longer it takes for these fights to conclude, the easier it becomes for another party to intervene. And especially when the entirety of the lobby knows that there is no truly established duo at this POI, just makes it all the more susceptible for some further sneaky action.
Yeah, but that's what these Osborns often are about, right? I think we often, throughout these heats in EU and on NA, if you've been watching over there as well, you just get these fights at spots where a bunch of different teams start to get involved, and it sort of builds and develops on itself game after game. And oftentimes, Taco, you can't even identify who's the winner coming out of it. It's just a mess.
Ooh. A bit messy.
So, let me get this straight. Cammy decides, I'm gonna coach my good friends Seti and Combeck and I'm just going to turn them into Prime Pete and Poyo. We're just running it down. That is the strategy. Early game, we land and we just run it down on whoever lands nearby. I like it. I'm loving it.
Get back to that in a moment here. First, Wolvax and Zarb. Just trying to be quick about it. No real time to waste. Seeing whether or not they can take out Skos and Vegeta. A couple of last-minute entries into today's competition, but here nonetheless. And they are still